That's it, you know. Okay, now this was a bomb diggity. This was amazing. You had a report of this guy from Germany. Please, what is this all about?
Yeah, I hinted to you that this was coming last week. We were still putting it all together. Klaus Büchele, I believe is how you say his name. He's Austrian. He decided to give an interview to Peter Reichelt, another Austrian, who we know because Peter is the journalist who 25 years ago helped produce this wonderful German documentary where they actually flew helicopters over Int Base for like the first time. So this was a big deal. 1999. There's a lot to it, but anyway, Peter Reichelt, and just in the last year or so, Peter's kind of come back to the subject, and he's been helping me out with things. He's been sending me some great stuff. Most recently, he sent me this 1994 print interview from an Austrian news weekly investigative magazine with David Miscavige that I don't think any of us had ever heard of. It's like only David Miscavige has only ever given 2 print interviews ever. 1998 to the Tampa Bay Times, it was St. Petersburg Times then, and this 1994 magazine interview right during that all that conflict with Germany, but it was the Austrian publication. So Peter resurfaced that, gave it to me, and translated it for me. We published that. People loved that because Miscavige was like over the top with his bluster. And at that time, Peter mentioned to me, by the way, one of the reason that happened is that 2 of the top people in OSA at that time were Austrians, Kurt Weiland and this Klaus. Right. And he said, I'm talking to Klaus. Kurt's still in. Kurt is still a prisoner in the hole or whatever. He's stuck out in base. But Klaus is out, and Peter let me know I'm talking to him. I'm interviewing him. I'm gonna translate the transcripts for those interviews and send them to you. So it took a while. He sent me transcripts from several different interviews. And what I did was, they had talked at several different times. I just rearranged them chronologically. I didn't change anything that they said. I just rearranged them so it made a little more sense chronologically. So we learned about Klaus's whole career, which was that he had first gotten into Scientology in Munich in 1973. But before long, he was involved with the Guardian's office in England during Snow White. And he was running the legal department for the Guardian's office worldwide in London. And then, of course, Snow White all fell apart and there were prosecutions and stuff. And so he then was like when Jane Kember went to prison and Mary Sue went to prison, the way he said, he was basically the last person in the Guardian's office shutting it down as they turned it into the Office of Special Affairs that we know today, and that he helped name it. I mean, this guy was in the middle of all this stuff. And then he became a top guy at OSA. Basically, he was in charge of all of Europe. So he was helping Heber Jensch get out of prison. He was helping Italy when some of its orgs were shut down. And of course, the big thing he did was this 2-year project fighting against the German government, which got like President Clinton involved. You know, I mean, this was a massive thing for Scientology in the mid-90s. Yep. And this is the guy who ran it. So it was really fascinating that he's coming forward now. And I think the fact that it was an Austrian journalist who approached him helped. I'm talking to Klaus myself now. So this is great. I think he's going to be helping us out for some time. And I just thought it was a great 2-part series. I broke it into 2 parts. In the second part, we learned the price he paid when he finally decided to leave. He left OSA in about the year 2000. He was tired of dealing with all these issues. And then, of course, the thing that everyone's telling me they thought was great was that he was emphasizing that in OSA, Scientology secret police, Scientology secret service, that it's very compartmentalized. And, you know, Marty Rathbun knew a lot of things, but not everything. Mike Rinder knew things, but not everything. And everybody had their own little pieces of it. And he had his piece. And that was very important to keep in mind. He said, but the one person who may know more than anybody else about all the dirtiest operations, the smear campaigns, is a woman in Los Angeles named Linda Hamill.
That's it.
Now, we knew that name before. I've written about her before, but very little. There's very little known about her. I've only ever seen one photo of her face. There's another photo of sort of the back of her head, but we were able to get her picture on her driver's license. But that's it. And this woman apparently knows where all the bodies are buried. And as Klaus was saying, if you're going to depose somebody, depose Linda Hamill. You know, she knows all this stuff. So that was fascinating. Anyway, by 2000, Klaus was done. He got out and he became a public. So he was no longer part of OSA, but he was still a Scientologist. And then, like so many other Scientologists, he saw how things were, changing, and that Marty Rathbun left and Mike Rinder left, and that really surprised him. And then what really changed things for him, like for so many other people, was the Debbie Cook letter. The Debbie Cook email she sent out January 1st, 2012, that laid out how David Miscavige was not following L. Ron Hubbard's policies and was really leading Scientology in a different direction, led so many people to question their dedication to Scientology and a lot of people to leave.
Yep.
What Klaus decided to do at that time was to go visit Marty Rathbun. And of course, Marty warned people, you come to my house, it's under OSA surveillance 24 hours a day, you'll be declared. But Klaus decided to go ahead and do that. He went to see Marty. He was declared, and his daughter, Yasmin, disconnected from him, and he has not heard from her in 13 years because of it.
That's sad.
So yeah, he paid the price that so many people do. And I think, he held out hope for a number of years that if he kept his mouth shut, maybe he'd be able to get back to her. But I think now it's been enough time. He realized that's not going to happen. So he decided to come forward. Yeah. So a lot of confirmation of some things we knew before, some new details about how things worked. Really fascinating. I'm glad Peter convinced Klaus to give this interview now.
Big time. I have not even finished all of it yet, and I have been blown away by what I've been reading because it's shed so much light on some things that we had suspected or thought, where you put things together, but it's nice when somebody comes out and goes, no, what you put together, that's exactly what happened. So this is really good. In Germany, for example, that was like a huge problem. I don't know if people understand. Like there was a period of time where Germany was, basically the Antichrist to Scientology. They were just, they just didn't want Scientology in Germany. And so the entire positioning within Scientology was, it was the rise of the Third Reich again, right? And that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. They didn't hesitate at all to go right to that. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was